On today's episode, it's the TK7 GO panel. We're going to take a deep dive into zone masks. Hello everyone and welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Yes, it's the TK7 GO panel. We're looking at zone masks today, this icon right here. I'm going to show you how it works with this zone chart right here. It's going to make sense to you. It's going to help you cement the idea of how zone masks work with Tony's panels. And then we're going to work on this image right here. It's not a great image, but it has some issues in it, and you're going to see how zone masks will solve these problems very simply. But we'll start out with this image because it's going to help you to understand how zone masks work. Before we get started, I just want you to know, and I may have mentioned this in another video, but I'm now affiliated with Tony Kuyper. He's even done a blog in some of my videos here, which is really great. And here's a blog post he just did about Sean Bagshaw. He has this video out in Smart Objects. I have this video. It's amazing. I highly recommend it. Now, with my affiliate link, you can save 15% off of all Tony Kuyper products. And I have links that takes you right to this purchase page. You can save 15% off any of Sean Bagshaw's videos. You can save money off on the TK7 panels and things. There's even a link on here to get the the TKV6 panel, the basic panel for free if you just want to, try out luminosity masking and see if it's something right for you. So that's interesting. So I just wanted to let you know up front. And by the way, my promo code is DK15, which gets you an additional 15% off of any of the products on this page. And now let's get down to work. I do want to give a shout out to Sean Bagshaw though, because I have to tell you guys, everything I've learned about luminosity masks has been thanks to him. I think I own every one of Sean's videos, and I've watched them relentlessly through the years and worked to develop my skills with the Tony Kuyper luminosity mask. So now I can kind of share this stuff with you. I'm not Sean Bagshaw. I'm just me, Dave Kelly. And now I want to share my joy and love of Tony Kuyper's luminosity masks and panels with you, my friends and subscribers. We'll eventually be looking at all the different masking types like the lights, darks, and midtone masks, the color masks, which are super powerful, the saturation vibrance mask. But today I want to look at one of my favorite masking methods, and that is the zone masks. Let's take a look at this image right here, which is nothing more than a zone chart, starting at 0, which is pure black, no detail, up to zone 10, which is pure white, no detail, clipped highlights, okay? But in between here, we have zones 1 through 9. Now, those are all the luminosity zones of your image, and the zone masks let you target those zones very precisely, which is really cool here. Now, let me go ahead and go up to the TK panel and click this icon, and we'll open up the zone masks. And we're greeted with this color picker here, right? And what we need to do is choose one of the zones here, okay? We have the little eyedropper tool here. Let's choose zone 5, which is right in the middle. And watch what happens when I do. Nothing yet until I click OK. But let's hold off for a second. Before I click OK, notice something. When I clicked on 5, notice this circle right here on my color picker. And notice it's the whole way to the left, meaning it's unsaturated. These are all my luminosity values, starting at dark at the bottom, light at the top. Pretty cool. So when I clicked the 5, nothing actually happened here. But watch this little circle as I click some of these other numbers. Like when I click 7, see how that moved up? When I click 9, it moves up. When I click 10, it goes into pure white. If I click 0, it shoots down to pure black. So it's just actually... the picker is actually picking the zones on the left-hand side of the color picker, which is really cool. So any tone that I pick on my image, for instance, if I pick 7, it is chosen 7, and there's that value there. Now I'm going to click OK. Now watch the chart here, because now we're looking at the zone mask that we're creating. This is no longer the actual image itself. It is the image, but it's going to be the layer mask applied to the image, okay? But notice something right here. 0, 1, and 2 are totally black. And then the other numbers, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, the lightest value being 7, because that's the zone I picked, right? So that's the lightest value. And notice this little slider here. This slider here is right on 7. Now, I could come here and click these numbers here too. For instance, I can come here and click 3 and watch things shift. See, things shift to the left, or I can click zone 7. I can click zone 9 and everything shifts over to the right. I can shift zone 5 and I'm right in the middle here, okay? Or I can take this slider here and go to any value I want in between these numbers here. In other words, I can go to like 5.25. I can go over to like 7.5 right there, and this thing shifts, right? And you notice this selection is a broad selection, so it's going to be a very broad and a very nicely feathered selection. When I'm working with the zone masks, usually the way I work is I'll come to my image and I'll select the luminosity value of the image that I want to alter, and then I'll come up and I'll use these numbers here, this slider here, and then these next two sliders, which I'm going to explain here in a second, which are super powerful. I'll use these to tailor the adjustment for the specific area that I want to target. And also I want you to know is sometimes after you pick a zone on your image, it's just perfect for you and you don't have to alter anything up here. So you don't always have to touch these buttons, but I want you to understand how they work should you need to use them. And now we're going to look at these next two sliders right here. Let's take a look at this slider first. Now remember, if you hold your Alt or Option key down and hover over things, you can get some help. This slider controls the width of the selected zone. This is very important, okay? So here's what I want to do. Let's go to zone 5. Let me click on zone 5. And you notice the 5th zone is the lightest right here. And this is the range from 1 to 9 that is selected, okay? So it's a very wide range. If you wanted to narrow that range, say for instance you didn't want your adjustment to go way out into the 8th or 9th zone here, you could take this slider and narrow it. Okay, so I'll start to move it into the left. Now when I slide this, nothing happens until I let go of the slider. I'm left clicking with my mouse here. But you see how that's getting more narrow? So I may want to just zero in on zones 4, 5, and 6. 5 getting the most adjustment, 6 and 7, 4 and 3 getting less of the adjustment, or I can even come in more to the left. And now I'm only getting zones 4, 5, and 6 with 5 getting the most adjustment. So pretty cool, right? And then this slider right here, it adjusts the luminance value of how much is getting selected here. So if I move this to the right, everything lightens up, right? If I move it to the whole way to the left, everything darkens down. So this is how you adjust your selections. And you're going to find that these two sliders, the width and this slider right here to adjust the lightness of the overall selection, are going to be very valuable to you. And then of course you have these modify tools as well. But today I'm not going to use the modify tools. I'm just going to stick mainly with these two sliders here, okay? And so next what we're going to do is work on our image. Okay, so I'm going to click X here, and now let's switch over to the actual image we're going to work on. Now, just to give you a little background in the image, there's a couple things I got rid of. For instance, this car here, this light, and this little thing on here were bothering me in the image. So I just put a blank layer above the background layer and used the healing tool and got rid of those, those distractions there, okay? And now I'm just going to right-click this and flatten this image. Or I could have used my flatten shortcut right here on my TK7 combo panel. If you'll notice, I switched my, I was using the CX panel, I switched it over to the combo panel. I just like this arrangement a little bit better. I was playing around with my workspace in Photoshop. So if things look a little different, they are, just in case you noticed. On this image, what I want to do is I think this man is the main focal point of the image. So I have this light area here. I think it's too light. I want to tone it down. I think this background's a little too light, and I think this line coming up the steps is a little bit too light, so I want to tone it down. And I want to darken some of the shadows on the step going up to the man. I like the nice leading lines going up to the gentleman walking here. And I may want to tone this door down a little bit too. I'll use the zone mask to do that. So the first thing I want to do is find a mask that can get rid of this light area right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click the tool right here. And I'm going to click a value in here that I want to tone down, and that would be this value right here. I'm going to click OK, and you can see it has targeted that area right there. Now remember, I can narrow that range in with this slider right here. but I don't think I need to. I think it's fine. Or I can lighten up that area that's going to get selected with this slider here. And I think I will lighten that up a little bit so more of that area gets selected. Now it's selected a whole bunch of other stuff out here. I don't really care because I'm going to use that technique called masking the mask. It's really cool. You'll see it here shortly. It's powerful. You'll use it all the time when you're making adjustments with luminosity masks. So I'm happy with that, and what I'm going to do is put that on a, let's just use a levels adjustment layer right here. Okay, and it's got that mask on it. Now I'm going to take this level here, and I want to tone down these tones, and they're in the highlights and midtones. I'll work with the midtones first and just tone down the midtones, and then I'll just add a little extra contrast by bumping the shadow slider a little bit to the right, and try to strike that perfect balance, and I think that looks really good. Now the rest of the image doesn't look good, right? But we're going to use that masking and mask technique, and I'll show you how that works. All we need to do is to take this levels adjustment layer and put it inside of a group, and to do that it's very simple, and I'll show you with the combo panel. See this icon right here? You can put this in a group with a black layer mask, which is a hide all layer mask, or put it in a group with a white reveal all layer mask. Okay, to me, the simplest way to do this would be to put it into a group with a black hide all layer mask, and I'll show you. I'll click this icon right here, and watch what happens. See, it's in a group with a black mask. Now my adjustment is gone. Okay, now if I click this X here, you can see that adjustment's inside of there. Okay, so what we need to do now is just paint our adjustment on. Now all I need to do is get some white paint. I'm just going to use this icon right here. Click this. This gives me a white brush. Now I have 100% opacity, 10% flow, and all I need to do is paint over this area that I want to darken down, like so. And don't forget, I have this layer mask under there. It's taking care of everything for me. So I can just, with that low flow, every time I go back and forth, I'm adding another 10% of that amount. Okay, so I'm just going to adjust this till it builds up right to where I like it. And I can easily just tailor that adjustment in. Isn't that really great? Now when I shut this group off, there's the before and there's the after, and I just targeted that area. Very simple. Now let's move on to another area. Before I move on, I just want to show you, you could click on this layer and make readjustments here on the actual levels adjustment, or you could go to this group here and adjust this opacity. If you want too strong, you can pull this off and just adjust it to where you want with the opacity. And it was pretty good at 100%. I'll leave it at 91%. But here's the before and here's the after. The next thing I want to do is darken down this area right in here just a little bit, so we can draw more emphasis to this man here. And let's get another zone mask. And let's click one of these areas up in here, like this zone right here. We'll click OK. And yeah, that's targeting the right areas. I think that looks really good. Now what I might want to do is just lighten up that selection a little bit. Maybe take it the whole way up like that. I don't need to narrow it. See, if I narrow it, I can narrow it down. But I don't need to narrow it really. I can leave that full. That's going to be fine. And now all I need to do is output it. I'm going to output it this time to a curves adjustment layer. Click this icon. Here it is on a curves adjustment layer. And there's that layer mask. If you ever want to see that layer mask on Tony's panel here, just click this button right here and you can see that layer mask again, which is really nice. Okay. Now let's go ahead and darken that background wall. Now there's a couple ways we could do it. We could come to this layer right here, change the blend mode from normal to multiply, which will darken everything. And then that's too dark, so we could take the opacity and start to pull it back and dial it in just the way we like it. Or let's go back to normal, another way of doing it. There's many different ways of doing things in Photoshop. I'm just showing you different ways, so that's normal. Or I could just come to this curve, come right here in the center and start to pull down on the curve, just to darken that up. Now I'm not worried about what's happening in the rest of the image, but I'm only looking at this area right here and here. So I'm going to get it right where I think it looks right. Okay, and I think right around there is good. And I'm going to do the mask and mask technique again. So I'm going to put it in a group with a black hide all layer mask. So I'm going to click this icon again. I'm going to get my white brush, and I still have white paint here. I'm still at that 10% flow. Make sure I have my brush tool. And I'll just start to paint that adjustment in just like so. And remember, with that low flow, every time I go across it, without lifting the brush, I'm adding another 10%. And I'm going to get this area right in here. I'm going to go around the gentleman here, like so. Just keep painting till I get it to where I think it looks right on this edge here. Now I'm overshooting on here, so I can make my brush a little bit smaller and switch to the opposite paint. I'm just clicking the X on my keyboard to switch it back to black paint, and I'm going to paint that away. Now let's take a look at the before and after. Before and after. See that? And if I overspilled on the man there, I can make my brush a little smaller. I don't think I did, but I'll just paint over him just to make sure I didn't overpaint, on him. But let's take a look at the before and after. So I'm being very sloppy out here. Let me look at that one more time. Now I can be rather sloppy when I'm painting on the mask because I have that luminosity mask underneath it protecting everything. Right there, it's protecting everything. So I'm just masking the mask so I can be, I don't have to be real critical on my painting out here. There's a before and after. And see, I overshot on the wall right here. I'm going to fix that up real quick just by painting on some black paint right there. And just that easy, we can fix it up. So here's the before and here's the after. Great job. Next, I want to lighten up this wall a little bit. It's a little bit too dark in here, so let's get another zone mask. Target some of these dark areas down in here. Click OK. And now let's narrow the mask in a little bit, just so we're targeting the area in there that we want. I'm going to bring it in a good amount, like somewhere around there. I'm going to lighten that mask up. Again, I'm going to do a masking the mask technique. Let's go ahead and get another curves adjustment here. This time I think what I'll do is put that into a screen blend mode. Yeah, and that'll lighten everything up. All right, and let's put it in a black group. And now let's just paint it on with white paint. Get myself a brush. I'm still at that 10% flow. White paint. I'm actually painting with black. Let's go with white paint. Just lighten some of these areas up in here that got a little bit too blocked up. Like so. Just to bring a little bit of detail back in there, because we're losing that detail. All right, let's see a before and after. Here's a before and here's an after. Now this process takes very little time, guys. I'm explaining it to you in a video, so it takes a lot longer. Now, if I wanted to add a little bit more contrast in there, let's just go to this adjustment layer right here. Click on that layer mask and, not the layer mask, click on the adjustment itself. I'm just going to pop a little bit of an S-curve in here. And that'll just add a little bit of contrast back into that area. See that? And now here's the before and here's the after. Now if I'm too strong, I can take the opacity. I can either do the opacity here or go up to the group. Either way, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go to the group and just ease back a little bit to about 86%. But look there, it just lightens it up a little bit. So it's looking good. We're almost done. I just want to darken these shadows on this wall and on the steps here a little bit. So we'll get another luminosity mask. I'm going to sample this right here, which I think will grab a lot of these darker tones up in here as well. Let's see. And it does. It's looking good. Let me see if I want to narrow that a little bit. Yeah, I may want to narrow it in a little bit, and let's just lighten it up a little bit, something like that. Let's go with another curves adjustment layer, and let me just pull down on the curves adjustment just to darken that whole area a little bit. Maybe somewhere right in there. Something like that. Let's put it inside of a group with a black mask. Get my white paintbrush going, and I'm just going to paint it on here. Again, that 10% flow all up through here. I'm going to stay away from these areas over here, but these areas I just want a little bit darker coming up through here. I might just hit a little bit of that one swipe across there. Maybe up this step here a little bit. Up into here. Up here a little bit more. And let's take a look at the before and after. But see how sloppy I can paint because I have that luminosity mask under there protecting everything. Before and after. Before and after. So yeah, that's looking good. The only thing I need to do now is darken down this light area coming up above the rail right here. And so to do that, let's grab another luminosity mask, a zone mask, and let's target this right here. Click OK. But you see how quick this can go? I'm just speeding things up here a little bit just to show you how quick you can be here. And let's just narrow this in. I only want to get those really light areas in there. Tone down. Let's lighten this up a little bit. Okay, so this time let's get a levels adjustment. And I'm not going to do anything, I don't think, with the levels, but I'm just going to put it on a multiply blend mode. And you can see it darkened everything. Now it's too dark, so I'm going to take the opacity, take it off, and then just move it to the right to where it just tones down the way I like it. And I think right around there, again, I'm going to throw it in a mask. I don't want it going everywhere with the white paint. And I'm going to be very sloppy and go fast and just paint right up here. See that? And I can darken that down, and I can darken this whole area, the cemented area right here. I can darken that whole thing down, and it's only targeting those light areas in there. But very simple, very easy. But here's the before, and here's the after. But that's the zone mask, and I hope you can see how powerful they are. Oh, and one last thing. I want to get this door right here. So let me go ahead and grab one more zone mask, go on this right here. Click OK. All right, very cool. Let's narrow that in. Okay, so I only want to get that door right there. Let's make it a little bit lighter by adjusting this slider here. Let's put it on another levels. It doesn't really matter. And I think I'm going to go ahead and use the multiply blend mode to darken it. And you can see how it darkened it. Here's the before. Just watch the door before and after. Nice. And now let's just put it in a black group again. And I still have the 10%. I'm going to take my 10% and bump that up to no flow. Just to 100, no flow. I meant to say 100% flow. Sorry, I'm moving a little fast because I don't want this video getting too long. I'm just going to paint that right on there like so. And even in here a little bit. Okay. So just like that. Here is the before, and here's the after. Tones that down. And if I went too far, I can pull back on this opacity a little bit. And now my man is standing out there. He's the star of the show. So we've come from here and moved to here. We just balanced out this image. And that's how easy it is to use luminosity masks. Well, there you go, the TK7 GO panel. That was a deep dive into zone masks, okay? So we made all these layers. And I'll be honest with you guys, this would honestly take me roughly maybe 5 to 10 minutes to do this. It's really quick. I would say more like 6 or 7, honestly. But just to balance out your image, going from here to here, pretty amazing. I love the zone mask in the TK7 GO panel. Hey, if you enjoyed my tutorial today, please give it a like, share it with your friends. If you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe, click the bell notification icon. Then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll be notified.